Hey folks, Steve here, and we're talking Chopper, Eric Bana starring film directed by Andrew Dominik. And I'll just start with a community announcement. The film is rated R. It's restricted to people over the age of 18 due to medium level violence. That's the official reason, um, as decided by the Australian Classification Board. So if you're under the age of 18, you should probably, I don't know what you should do. Maybe you should talk to me. I'll give you a condensed version of Chopper, the one that doesn't have medium level violence in it. Anyway, just thought I'd tell you that. And if you've got a problem with medium level violence, maybe you should also talk to me. Even though it's not actually that. It's not gratuitous. It's not overdone. The violence is kind of necessary, because the thing about the film is it's essentially about a man who isolates everybody around him through his inability to control his own temper, his own violence. And which is why the film becomes so fascinating, because it's not it's actually a film about violence and the problems of violence, even though it's a lot of other things. Anyway, that's my community announcement. Done. This is the Australian poster for Chopper. Beethoven had his critics too, and I suppose I can say now, as the poster says, Eric Bana is Chopper. And you can see a very bloated Eric Bana if you know Eric Bana, who's in killer shape. I think that's fair to say. He's in killer shape. I've never met Eric Bana. I stood in line with him at a gig once. He was sort of, when you line up and someone's sort of next to you and you're not actually in line, they're not actually physically behind you. So it's sort of the courteous thing to let the person who went before you go before you. Well, he did let me go before him, even though I was there before him. So it would have actually been rude had he not let me go first. But I think I'd be friends with Eric Bana if I did get to know him, because we seem to share the same sort of music tastes, and we both like football. So what else does a friendship need? Is all I'm saying. Anyway, he bloated himself up for the film, and I'm really interested in the poster. So you've got a bloated Eric Bana who's got all of Mark Chopper Reed's sort of tattoos on him, and there's a sort of a light over his head, like a halo effect, and the whole film is playing with this whole idea of the way that Chopper wants to project himself and the way that the world sees Chopper. And it's not as if the film isn't in on the joke. There are always two sides going on with Chopper, and the film is sort of playing around with that whole idea here, that here is a man holding not one gun, but two, and he's got a halo over his head. And he's also got a gun stuffed down his pants. My Chopper story, for those who are interested, I wouldn't say I met Chopper. I was walking down the street in Collingwood, it was early 90s, and I was walking past a bar, and someone came out of the bar and just like banged into me. They weren't looking at where they were going. And I sort of swore at the person without looking at who it was. I'm like, fuck, man, like, what are you doing? You banged into me. I look up. It's Mark Chopper Reed. I'm like, oh, fuck. Like, I'm dead now. I said, oh, sorry. I didn't realise. And then Mark looked at me, smiled. Don't worry about it, mate. And then he sort of patted me on the back, even though I did, like, when it happened, I thought he had broken my spine. Like, he's a very physically big and strong man. Anyway, that's my Mark Chopper Reed story. I don't have any more stories to tell you about Mark Chopper Reed, because I never really met the guy. But I heard from people who knew him that he was complete crazy maniac, as he is represented in the film. Let's get on with it. Oh, this is the these are the UK. These are the UK posters, which have been sort of cut off. Well, the poster on the left, it says, "Think Reservoir Dogs," and you'll get an idea of Chopper. So it's like making this direct comparison to another film, another popular film. And the one on the right, which has been chopped off, says, great debut from Eric Bana. Well, as we know, in Australia, this was far from the debut for Eric Bana. He was, of course, in numerous other films leading up to Chopper. He also had, I think, not one but two series, comedy sketch show series. He was in The Castle, of course, classic Australian film, directed by Rob Sitch. This was he was sort of at the crossroads when he made this film. I think he knew that he had to kind of break out of that comedy thing, and he had to do a kind of a serious film where he really engaged with the material, and it was Chopper. And if you want to be taken seriously in the movie world, ladies and gentlemen, essentially what you do is you put on a lot of weight. Charlize Theron, Monster, Robert De Niro, Raging Bull, and Eric Bana, Chopper. You put on a lot of weight and you essentially make yourself ugly. And that's what Eric Bana did. And he kind of launched his Hollywood career because of that. Now, Andrew Dominik, the guy who directed it, very talented director. Oh, he's very talented. He did The Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford. That's the title. The person, Rob Hansen, who wrote the book, he said, "You can adapt my work, but you can't change my title." Assassination of Jesse James by the Coward Robert Ford remained, even though Warner's tried to change it. The stipulation of the contract, they couldn't change it. He directed that with Brad Pitt. That was fantastic. And he did Killing Them Softly, which less of a great film, but great things in it. Wonderful screenplay. And he gets a great performance out of James Gandolfini, a.k.a. Tony Soprano from The Sopranos, and Brad Pitt back again. And then he directed a really interesting documentary about Nick Cave. So he's doing some interesting stuff. Now, I just want to make a point about the national cinema versus the international cinema, and why is this course so much about the international and not the national? Well, I mean, the fact is we're in an international cinema. So if we're not talking about the international of the Australian cinema, then we're really not talking about realistically what is going on in our industry. Let me throw some statistics at you. 17% of Australian crew have experience of working on Hollywood production. Over a quarter of all special effects technicians, sound editors, grips, gaffers, and first assistant directors have foreign production experience. Right? National cinema are regularly engaged in Hollywood productions, right? So Australian filmmakers are regularly engaged in working on other productions and kind of establishing a career for themselves, an international career for themselves. There aren't many Australians working in the film industry who aren't actually, only interested in working in Australia and for Australia, okay? So think about that. The 2006 to 2007 Service Industry Survey by the Australian Bureau of Statistics, 28% of the income of Australian post-production digital and visual effects companies, around 120 million, derived from work from overseas businesses. So think about that, okay? So the film production is now considered an important growth area for the Australian economy. Well, you wouldn't have been saying that a few years ago, but it is now. And it's because of the international Australian cinema. It's not because of that people are only working in Australia, only work for the national. It's about the international. And it goes back yet again to Tom O'Regan's whole idea of the denationalising of the Australian film industry. all right? And we have to be thinking beyond that, beyond the whole idea of just the national to the international, that every asset and facet of the industry is working for and with the international now. There is no idea of just a national film. Everything is international. A film like Chopper, Australian money, Australian cast, Australian director. Well, okay, all right. Andrew Dominik, he was born in New Zealand. But, if Sam Neill has taught us anything, along with Russell Crowe, it's Jane Campion. All right, you see what I'm doing here? If they're talented and they're working, on Australian film, we'll claim them. We'll claim them as their own. So Andrew Dominik, forget that he's New Zealand born, Australian. That's all I want to say about Andrew Dominik. But, he's really interested in the international. And also, I mean, if you think about it, the majority of Australian films, what's actually going on, or we've got international studios all over the joint. I didn't even put the Adelaide studio here, right? The Babadook, right? Jennifer Kent's film, completely shot, Adelaide studio. We've got international studios in Melbourne, in Sydney, and Gold Coast, right? Australian films are being made and shot often, not always, but often in these studios. And we're always encouraging international people to come over here with their money and make their movies here. So, international people, if you're listening, come over. Come to Melbourne. Known for its coffee and cold winters. What else is Melbourne known for? I don't know. Coffee. Come for the coffee. And go down the alleys where there's graffiti. The problem with national cinema, it's limited to Australian borders. International cinema is more appropriate. Okay, so think about that. It's not just about on-screen representation, and it's not about me saying, fuck the national. It's about me saying, realistically, look at the industry. Look at the industry that we're in, and look at these films that are coming out of the industry. And to only look at the national really isn't telling the whole story about the industry. Have I said industry enough in that last paragraph? I think I have. Okay, so I want to spend the remainder of this lecture kind of talking about adaptations, because Chopper is an adaptation. And it's an adaptation on a number of levels. It's an adaptation because the books that Mark Chopper Read wrote, yes, like the real Mark Chopper Read did actually write books, which was interesting to read. The books. So it's adapting his books. It's adapting a real life person. So it's another, based on Australia, real life thing. It's also a genre film. So it's working within a particular genre, even though it's not a genre film that you would expect. Like, this is actually a film based on particular sequences and it's based on a performance, but it's certainly within that true crime genre thing. But adaptations, right? In Australia, you should be making adaptations because they do much better. They give you a solid box office. Great Gatsby, 27 million. In Australia, Ned Kelly, right? Gregor Jordan's 2003 film. Terrible film. Even though Heath Ledger, fantastic. Made 8 million. That's big business in Australia. And Chopper, I'll tell you something about Chopper. The most popular R-rated film Australia has ever made. That's true. Right? When it comes to R-rated films, Chopper killed it. Literally. At the box office. 5 million it made. R-rated movies don't make 5 million at the Australian box office. Hello. Chopper did. Thank you very much, Eric Banner. So, they're all adaptations, these films that do, incredibly well. And you know why it did so well? Because Chopper was such an identity in, the year 2000. When the film was made. Such a myth. People were really interested to go and see him realised and, recreated for the screen. And to see Eric Banner, who was sort of known as a comedic actor, he was never a comedian. He was never like at the Melbourne International Film Festival or anything. But he did have skit shows where he sort of played this Chopper character at one point. Okay, things you need to know about adaptation. Let me give you the hard facts, ladies and gentlemen. why original films do have a greater opportunity for exceptional box office performance. They're very volatile, right? So think about that. Their ability to set the benchmark for success is offset by a high failure rate. So if you're going to make an original film, it's either going to do like brilliantly well, right? Like say Baz Luhrmann's Australia, or it's just going to bomb badly. But if you do adaptations, right, the box office is stronger and it's more consistent. Now, of course, we all know why. Because if you've read the book or you know the source material, you're more interested to see it played out on the screen. Of course, so you can go and you can say, oh, well, the book was better than the film. You buggered that up. That's, often how we talk about adaptations. A typical adaptation will outperform a typical original film. It's true. It's true. It will. Right? So if the industry wants stronger box office, then adaptations need to be encouraged, right? It's crazy the way that we talk about adaptations. Sorry, we talk about box office and why Australian films don't perform better when the answer, adaptation, right? Adaptation continues to be the answer. Even if the film is no good, if it's an adaptation of popular work, it does very well. Adaptation. Hollywood produce more than 70% of their films that come from Hollywood, adaptation. UK, 50% of films, adaptation, right? Both those industries, really strong box office from local content. Australia, 1999 to 2008, 19% of adaptations, 81% of original films, right? And those 19%, right, brought in over 70% of the box office. So don't tell me that I'm onto something that isn't going anywhere. Adaptation, ladies and gentlemen. You want success at the box office? Adaptation. Every time. Who's with me? All right. Australian adaptations, 1999, 2008. Right? You know what you get if you're doing an adaptation of popular work? You get more budget. That's right. The film funders, they'll throw more money at you. The average Australian film that's an adaptation, 7.5 million for your budget. Original films, 3.5 million. So if you want more money, adaptation. Box office, the average adaptation will make 1.5 million at the Australian box office, and the original, 200,000. Again, adaptation is the answer. All roads lead to adaptation. Overall, original films do perform better. Now, okay, this is the thing, right? 4 of the top 5 grossing films, right, were original. Moulin Rouge, Australia, 2 Baz Luhrmann films. We should just give Baz Luhrmann, just give Baz Luhrmann whatever he wants. Just say, can you just make a film for us like every year? Because you will just, allow us to have this great box office. Moulin Rouge, Australia. Or, you know what Moulin Rouge and Australia have in common? Nicole Kidman. That's right. So, what we want, I've got the answer. Don't worry about what I said about adaptation. Forget about that. This is the answer. Nicole Kidman being directed by Baz Luhrmann. We want that every year. All right, 1 film every year, Baz Luhrmann film starring Nicole Kidman. It's sure to be a hit at the box office. I can't see how that will fail. Happy Feet, another film, did very well. George Miller, now that's another one. He knows how to make a popular film. And The Dish, that was a bit of a fluke, let's face it. All right. Original films are extremely volatile, high rate of failure. So 46 out of the bottom 50 earning films, 46 of the bottom 50 earning films, original films. You see? So the original films can do spectacularly bad, where adaptations are more realistic, are more level. Because adaptations are steady, they offer a realistic expectation at the box office, right? The point here, the value in adaptations. This is why Chopper succeeds. Right? It's grounded in adaptation and it gives itself spaced astray from its own adaptation. Why so few adaptations in Australia? There's a myth. There's actually a myth within the industry. Like, people actually working in our industry will say at things, and they said to me, "Oh no, I don't know, we're not interested in adaptation because I get too much to option the material." Bullshit! Talk to the people who have written it. Christos Scholkis, he says, "I'll give someone my stuff for free as long as I like the idea that they have." Anyway, how do you option a book or a work? It's only $500 to $3,000, and you know what? You don't often have to pay them until the film goes into production. That's a pretty good deal. Adaptation is not being taught to film producers and screenwriters. It's nuts, isn't it? How many film courses teach adaptation? Exactly. Filmmakers in Australia feel that adaptation threatens their creative freedom. I wrote here bogus, but I should have really written bullshit, because it is. There is nothing to say that an adapted work is less creative than an original work. Chopper, great film. Adaptation. Made by a person who knows how to adapt. Assassination of Jesse James, Brother the Coward, Robert Ford. Adaptation as well. Killing Them Softly was an adaptation. He knows how to adapt. Chopper is a highly innovative and original film, and an adaptation works on two levels, right? Well, it's an adaptation of a book, but it's also a genre picture. And when you have somebody like Eric Bana, who wasn't as established now, then as he is now, you've got to sell it as the genre that it's working within. Let me say a couple of things about genre. Genre doesn't limit the conversation, it expands it. Okay. It allows us to evaluate Australian cinema as part of the global world cinema. So think about Chopper, right? All the ways you can sell it. It's a gangster film, it's a true crime film, it's a biopic. Chopper fits more comfortably into the global cinema than exclusively into Australian cinema, which I think Australians like. It's true. Australian cinema, we talk a lot about national, but what Australians seem to really engage with is the international idea on the screen. Its central character is a damaged, violent man. Think Martin Scorsese's films. Think Raging Bull, another film where Bob De Niro stacked on a bunch of weight. Do we take people more seriously if they've stacked on a bunch of weight? I don't know what that is all about. Anyway, Taxi Driver, again, if you know Taxi Driver, the film, you'll see some kind of recreated shots in Chopper. There's one where he leaves jail and he's kind of walking down the streets in slow motion, smoking a cigarette, which is the exact same shot from Taxi Driver. Not that Travis goes to jail in Taxi Driver, which of course is the irony of Taxi Driver, because he goes around killing people and then he ends up a hero. Unlike Chopper, ladies and gentlemen. Okay. Now, there has been a shift to genre. Films released in 2004, right? So 2004, remember, terrible year. Oh, shocking year. Shocking year. If someone says to you, "Hey, do you want to come to my place? We'll watch an Australian film from 2004. Make an excuse. Don't get involved in that, all right? There were films like, probably films you've never seen, Love's Brother, Strange Bedfellows, with Crocodile Dundee himself, Peaches, Somersault. None of these films are any good. Somersault did really well at the AFI. It wasn't worthy. It wasn't worthy, ladies and gentlemen. Films released 2004. Okay. The industry was accused of producing dark, depressing, and self-indulgent movies with little regard for audience and entertainment. In 2004, films were struggling to find a box office, unlike Chopper a couple of years earlier. Now, 2005, films released, there was a new evaluation funding system that would evaluate a project's market viability, right? So suddenly films were being given money under a series of evaluations: script quality, audience potential, stars, filmmaking talent. Right. There was a push to return to the popular genre, a la Chopper films of 2000 and earlier. So what happens, right? So we go from 2004, forget about it, 2005, right? We've got a whole bunch of genre movies. Wolf Creek, horror. I don't really care for Wolf Creek. I think it's overblown and pretty, it's like Bad America. But some people like it. Look Both Ways with one of my favourites, Justine Clark, directed by Sarah Watt. The Proposition, Western, another genre. Illustrated Family Doctor, comedy, $3. And of course, Little Fish, another crime film. Crime film with Cate Blanchett. So you can see that genre also brings in better box office money. If you are marketing a film without stars, right, you market the genre, right? And here you've got a poster for Noise, which is Matthew Saville film, which is a really great film. The tagline there is "Wrong man, right place, wrong time," which is a comedy film. Believe me, Noise is not a comedy film. There's anything but laughter in that film. It's a great film though. And you've got a poster here of a cop smoking a cigarette, kind of laconic cop, Brendan Cow. And this is the UK poster, one of the UK posters for Chopper. Never let the truth get in the way of a good story. Okay. And meet Australia's best-selling author. When they shoot me, I hope they get my good side. Beethoven had his critics too. Anyway, there's no mention here on the poster of Eric Bana. And this is the thing. It's selling the whole idea that this is a crime film that you should watch. Okay, genre becomes a surer bet at the box office. You've got better box office, smaller budgets because you can actually market the genre that you're looking at. It's a gateway to Hollywood, which I'll get to in a sec. It's not reliant on marquee stars. You've got inventive distribution, like think of Kenny, the film, Clayton Jacobson film, and what they did in selling that film as a comedy, and sequel potential. I want more sequels. This is what we need in Australia. More sequels. We don't make enough sequels. In 2013, the 13 films grossing more than $200 million in the US were a sequel based on a comic book, a sequel based on a young adult book, a sequel based on a cartoon, a sequel based on a comic book, a sequel of a sequel of a sequel of two other sequels, a prequel based on a book, a sequel based on a relaunch of a TV show, a sequel based on a comic book, a movie based on a book, a sequel based on a book. All these films, all sequels, all adaptations. Homework, ladies and gentlemen. Come up with 3 Australian films and let's do sequels for them. Muriel's Wedding. Come on! What happened to Muriel? Let's follow her. Let's catch up with her 20 years later. What other sequels do we want? Chopper. Yeah, let's do it. Chopper. What else? But in all seriousness, ladies and gentlemen, a criticism with Australian films is we don't actually think about our films like that. We're not like America where we think, well, we're kind of setting up a character which could flow and follow across many different films, right? And if we thought about that, we might be thinking about it in more broader terms than what we do. Where what we do is we create a film which is sort of this vacuum kind of idea where we're gonna go into this world for 90 minutes and that's gonna be it. We're never gonna return to them. Maybe we should be returning to them. Okay, Lindy Chamberlain, The Return. We can go on. Mad Max. Now, again, George Miller knows how to do a sequel. Happy Feet 2. My kids, you know what they said to me about Happy Feet 2? It's like the first one, but better. That's the response you want from a sequel. It's like the first one, but better. And that's a 6-year-old saying it, right? Exactly. We should think more sequels. We couldn't really do a sequel for a film like Ballabo, could you? Because it doesn't really end greatly for anyone. in that film. But you know, anyway, something to think about. Food for thought, as they say. Sequels are the safest movies to make. Is Australia missing the boat? Why are sequels such a ridiculous idea? Now, think about it. Sequels come to memorable cinema and memorable characters. Maybe Australia needs more of that. Genre allows more opportunity for sequels. Now, think of the sequels that we've done. Wog Boy 2 kills it at the box office. Happy Feet 2, I've already said that. Wolf Creek 2, terrible. Oh, shocking film. But it does really well at the box office. Saw 2, all right, James 1. Oh, well. Now, he's really into the bash crang scare kind of loud thing, horror kind of movie. Not my sort of thing. I kind of like the creepy, mysterious kind of, it's there but you're not really sure if it's there horror. That's just me. But he's doing well at the box office doing sequels. And Fury Road, of course. Yeah. Now, genre must do more than just trade off its genre. It actually has to offer you something else. And filmmakers must provide a product that is cinematically exciting and easy to sell. Chopper was really easy to sell because Chopper is about Eric Bana, right? The film is carved around his performance. And there is Eric Bana without his weight gain, just looking, beautifully groomed and kind of, I don't know if you say chiseled, but he looks healthy. He looks like a figure of health. Something else about Eric Bana, I think we enjoy the same sorts of food because I've seen him twice at restaurants I've been to. And I don't go to restaurants that much. It's not like I'm in a restaurant every night, but I have seen him there. Hey, he just looks like a generally, nice guy. So Eric, if for some reason you're listening to this lecture, maybe we could get a coffee and we could start a friendship because I feel like we have the grounding for a friendship, and I'm just putting the fillers out there. Okay, Chopper genre eliminates subplots to give him the central performance. And look, the thing about Chopper is I could tell you a lot of things that are wrong with the film, right? Like the structure, like the backstory, characters' relationships. But because Eric Bana is so fucking great in this film, and because the film is about how fucking great Eric Bana is, like that's the point of the film. The film either lives or dies from Eric Bana's performance. It doesn't matter because it's all about how great Eric Bana is. So, I hope you enjoy Eric Bana's greatness with me when we're watching the film. Australian films are very good at producing great performances that attract Hollywood's eye. This is why Australian actors are often going to America and launching really, really successful careers. You think of the films that we make, it's often about performances, right? The genre films that we make is often about performances. Films where characters immerse themselves into real life people or, fictional people, based on the sort of the idea of creating a very memorable characters. Audiences love this. Think of Russell Crowe and Romper Stomper. God, if there's an overblown, overrated, overpraised film, Romper Stomper. Whew. But Russell Crowe, effective. Now, Toni Collette, Mira's Wedding. Yes. I was kind of joking when I said Mira's Wedding, there should be a sequel. But now, the more I think about it, I'm sold. I want it. I want Mira's Wedding Part 2. Which was sort of mental, but it wasn't really mental. Mental being a film. Also starring Toni Collette, made by the director. But, you think about these films and the way that they launch these actors because they become, they're so memorable and you think, wow, that's a really good actor. The thing about Chopper, which is worth talking about, is in Australia, because we know Chopper, Eric Bana's performance is an impersonation almost, right? A very interesting impersonation, but an impersonation nonetheless. In America, because they had no idea who Chopper was, it just seemed like unbelievably brilliant and inspired acting, which is kind of interesting, isn't it? The way that, we will read a film and way that other people will read a film. Okay, true crime is about selling an idea of truth, not morality, right? This film is not, it's not, it's like, it's not a moral film, but it's not an amoral film. I mean, the film is bookended by Chopper in jail. So it's not like he just continues to roam. It's like Wolf Creek, where, you've got Mick just out there killing backpackers. In this film, it's very much a film that, there is a crime element to it, but there also is the whole idea of the establishment and the establishment. The thing about true crime, and Australians make a lot of true crime. It's this whole idea of what really happened. So you're kind of going to the cinema as an education and a piece of entertainment. And I like the poster, the relaunch poster in Australia, where it said 5 million in the first 4 weeks, highest grading R-rated film in Australia box office history. Now, multiple audience demographics find interest in this. So Chopper, it's attracting true crime genre fans, adaptation fans, celebrity fans watching Eric Bana. It's very easy to market a film like Chopper. International DVD, Blu-ray marketing also, really pushing the whole idea of the true crime aspect and element. The Snowtown Murders was titled in Australia Snowtown. If you want an amoral film, if you want a film with no morality at all, Snowtown, oh, horrible. It just makes my skin crawl, that film. It's kind of effective, I guess. But it's like, why do I want to see such a unpleasant film? Chopper's not like that. Chopper's actually quite funny. I mean, the thing about Chopper that we will talk about is the whole idea of the larrikin and the way that Chopper plays out ideas of the larrikin, that although we kind of know he's kind of messed up, the way he sort of takes his moral agenda where, yeah, sure, I'm going around killing people, but I'm killing bad people. And that's, it's a good thing. Anyway. Chopper, high concept, compelling cinema. Dominik doesn't trade off the genre subject. He takes the tried and true gangster story and he transforms it into a meditation on a deranged and lonely man. And that's the whole thing about this film, that he represents this deranged and lonely man. Like I said, it's about someone who punishes those and those around him. And also, what I really like about it is that it challenges the idea of the kind of the unreliable author and narrator. So you've got Chopper selling this whole idea and these stories that no one around him is buying, including the cops, which is really, really interesting. Now, Joel Edgerton, we all know Joel Edgerton, don't we? Yeah. He's in he's in a number of films, including Animal Kingdom. Great. Now, he's someone else. He's killing it in America at the moment. Now, I thought this was kind of interesting. I'm going to end the lecture just by talking about this. This is what he said about making films in Australia, right, as a way of launching your career in Hollywood. He said this, as an individual calling card, it's funny. You don't need the whole world to open up their wallets and throw bucks of money at the box office. All you need is for it to appeal to the filmmaking community of Los Angeles. That's what happened to Eric Bana with Chopper, and that's what happened to Animal Kingdom. He was talking about himself here, ladies and gentlemen, because he was in Animal Kingdom, of course. Animal Kingdom was an excellent casting tape, it's true. And that's a shame. Why is that a shame? It seems like that's great, isn't it? Isn't it great? Because you did a film and now you've got this great career. Good on you, Joel Edgerton. I don't see why that's a shame. Why should we be shamed to, a film like Animal Kingdom giving us international opportunities? Yeah. Tall poppy syndrome. Yeah, that's what that's all about. Final thought. Who is the Australian industry for? Right? Creating good popular films that Australians want to see. And creating good talent that appeals to Hollywood, employing talent. Think about that. What's going on with our industry? Is it like you think about, like, I say, a university or a TAFE college or something like that, where the government sort of subsidise it, they give the money so people can go in and they can learn skills and then from those skills they can go off and they can make money and they can be good citizens of the country, I guess, right? Should the industry be more like that? Like it's like, films like Chopper and Animal Kingdom, there were casting tapes for Hollywood, but that's not a bad thing, is it? Like, should Australian films sort of not have any appeal to Hollywood? Should Australian films not be there to help the careers of local actors, international careers? It's an interesting argument that continues in the industry. Now, since Chopper, both Dominik and Banner predominantly work in Hollywood. Is that a good thing for the industry? Do we get enough return for our talent? Should we be doing that? Should we be saying, all right, we'll give you 7.5 million for Chopper, but if you launches your career overseas, we want our money back. Eric Banner, you owe us 7.5 million. You can pay PayPal. Is that what we should be doing? Should we sort of be setting up almost like it's a loan? It's a loan to these people who they make their films in Australia. They go off, make millions of dollars in Hollywood. Should we be getting our money back? It's not a bad thing to be thinking about, is it? Is insisting on on-screen representation creating a them versus us divide? To be a truly international cinema, we must encourage all types and sorts of films, filmmaking, and filmmakers. All right, there's a film called I, Frankenstein, Stuart Beattie, made in Australia, Australian crew, Australian director. You know what it made? 71 million at the box office. Thank you very much. So, we really should be thinking through these issues of what's going on with the international cinema, the way that Australian industry is being kind of set up to launch careers, and do we like that? Do we want that? And should we be actually be thinking about the Australian industry as not necessarily a training ground, but a ground where people can actually, launch themselves internationally, or is it going to become too needy if we're all making films? But the thing is, if you think about the films that do really well to launch careers, like, A Muriel's Wedding, great film, Chopper, great film, Animal Kingdom, not so great, but still many people think it's pretty great. You know what I'm saying? Good films get noticed. Good performances get noticed. So it's not like it's dumbing down anything when you really think about it. That's all I'm saying. Dead Calm, another good film, great performance. Nicole Kidman launched her career. Anyway, I'm going to leave it there. Lot to like about Chopper. I think it's a really terrifically made, constructed, acted, written, and directed movie. Andrew Dominik is a real talent, and Eric Banner, he's another real talent. And boy, has he gone on. But I must say, I'm a bit disappointed with Eric Banner. This is probably going to ruin the friendship if he is listening. But he does Chopper, and it's so good. And then he goes and he does Munich with Steven Spielberg, fantastic. But he just makes really safe choices, and I would just wish he'd make more edgy choices and do films that are just a bit more edgy and daring, because he's got the talent for it. He's very good when he's in those sorts of roles, as opposed to playing the good guy and the nice guy. More Chopper-like performances. Thank you very much, Eric Banner. All right, I'm going to leave it there. Speak to you soon.